I think that as I've grown and just have a general curiosity and thirst for information, primarily through reading, you come across little clues that, oh, if this exists, that means somebody's making bank doing only this. Especially in like the financial world, but in many spaces, you start to realize, oh, just given the economic reality, there's probably somebody that does only task X in this process, and everyone uses this person,
Mm-hmm.
and they make bank, or they own a niche, or there's a small industry that satisfies only this niche, and so I've somewhat tuned myself to look for those because I think that's where you get started, right? That's and even if you're doing something dumb, even if it's like, yeah, you're never going to make more than, I don't know, 50,000 a year. Going after said niche, it's still okay because it'll get you a beachhead into its space that you can then expand upon strategically. So I guess I've always looked for those clues. One of the things I've been doing recently is studying taxes extensively. I have a habit, I guess, of reading textbooks, and I recently finished a couple textbooks on economics, and studying economics. You obviously taxes would be a mentioned frequently, so I was like, okay, well let me study tax. Let me just learn everything I can about tax. But then it was like, well, there's accounting textbooks, but there's not really like straight up like this is how taxes work 101 style textbooks, at least not that I could find. And so I then discovered that there's a program that the IRS offers called becoming an enrolled agent, which is like the light version of a CPA, or like a backdoor to becoming a CPA kind of thing. So I started just studying taxes as much as I could, and just in reading tax code and reading tax material, which is super dry, but in just kind of like looking into taxes, I found, oh, well, there's a certain type of real estate transaction that has to involve this specific intermediary for it to be legal. If this if the tax code's written this way, then it must mean that there's a niche to be this specific intermediary, and there's a whole industry behind this intermediary existing in this specific type of real estate transaction. And looked into it, lo and behold, that whole industry exists. They're called 1031 exchange facilitators. And so, oh wow, look at this niche. Here's a whole niche that exists because of a certain way that the tax code is written. I wonder how they're doing. I wonder about the economics of their space. Where's the level of tech in their space? Are there any venture backed efforts to modernize that space, or is this still done pen and paper like the bookstore in Wisconsin? So I guess that's the general thought process I've attempted to employ. And I think that's a wise thought process for anyone looking to, truly make an entrepreneurial effort, because you got to start with a laser focused attack on a specific spot of a market or an industry. You can't just say, all right, we're open for business, come one, come all. I sell everything and anything, like, the modern kind of like handyman service. I don't think that idea necessarily is going to get you far in a lot of
Right.
entrepreneurial contexts.
Or trying to build like an end-to-end product.
Yeah, trying to do everything.
I
Like,
feel
oh,
like
we're going
that's
to build a
always
platform that content creators use to do everything. It's like, yeah, well, good luck. That's a
yeah.
really tough thing to do. But if you can find one specific thing, like, I don't know what it'd be in the content creation space, but like
But like a piece of the process. I
yeah,
like
just a
that.
piece. That you got to start somewhere, and somewhere that you believe the competition level's low enough, and there's a small enough moat that you can actually get some initial traction to get excited. That doesn't mean that like, oh, 10 years from now, all you're going to be doing is that specific piece. But if you get enough traction, then you can start strategically growing from there.
Yeah. And like if you can see those dollars, like that 1 to 50 thing
Yeah,
that they
yeah,
talk
yeah.
about.
It's those dollars are very much, oh, I'm onto something here.
Yeah.
Because I mean, no one's
Can
no one
start to feed you.
other than maybe your mom. You're not going to get any like initial customers that are interested in a charity. You've satisfied a niche. Like, there's a niche that's, hey, I'm willing to take a shot based on how you've marketed yourself. So I think focusing on those niches that you wouldn't necessarily expect to exist, but maybe you research them a little bit and you're like, wow, there's whole niches out there. And maybe they have a conference, maybe they have a trade association. We live in an extremely robust economy. And I think that far too many would-be entrepreneurs, especially in the tech space, are too focused on, dating, video games, music. We're all focused on the kind of fun places to be, when it's kind of like, well, yeah, but if you do something that's unsexy, there's a much stronger chance that you're going to get that traction you need to really make this a wealth generator.
Yeah, it's the same as with like careers. Like if you pick the career that's like super fulfilling and like everyone wants, typically the pay is lower.
Yeah. I have heard that. I have heard that, like, if you want to go work in Hollywood, right? Like, you don't make anything because everyone wants to work in Hollywood. So you get a premium for working in the places fewer people are interested in.
Yeah.
And I think entrepreneurially that holds up as well.
It's the same thing. Or it's at least like it's just way harder. Because like, of course, there are going to be like the top dogs in the dating space that are making a ton of money.
Yeah.
But that's going to be way harder.
Yeah.
Way more competitive.
Yeah. Way more competitive. I mean, you can potentially succeed in that winner take all space, but my understanding is it's quite saturated, and it's not necessarily like no one's out there being like, oh, if only there was another dating app. I would bang down the door of somebody that presented me with another dating app. But and this is coming from a guy that's I've used dating. I'm married because of dating apps, so it's not like I'm frowning upon them, but it's just saying that, like, the obvious economic spaces, the obvious markets, especially the fun markets, are probably pretty well saturated, and you're not necessarily going to get that niche opportunity that I think can provide that initial traction necessary to make an entrepreneurial departure from the status quo.